Hey guys, a targeted individual has gone on a mass shooting in Maine at a bowling alley and a restaurant. But as usual, there have been some signs of fuckery going on. Now, the shooter's name is Robert Card, and Robert Card equals 67. And on the day of the shooting, there were 67 days left in the year. Now, this guy was hearing voices, which is, it's called voice to skull. It's controlled by the NSA, and all of these shootings in the United States, they're just a pretext to disarm the American people, to take their guns away, to take their gun rights. Because if you look up all the names of these mass shooters, and then you look up hearing voices, the majority of them are hearing voices, and this is all coming from the signals intelligence bases in the United States, and that's controlled by the NSA. Now, here are a few more things that match up in gematria. If you don't know what gematria is, it's a number and letter code used by the Jesuits to code in, put codes into their false flag operations. Okay, so shelter in place equals 66, mass shooting equals 66, bowling alley equals 56 and 187, Society of Jesus equals 56 and 187. Now, this happened at a bowling alley, and it matches up with that movie made by Michael Moore, Bowling for Columbine. Michael Francis Moore equals 187. I just said bowling alley and Society of Jesus equal 56. Well, the shooting began at 6:56. Central Intelligence Agency equals 117. Michael Moore equals 117. Lewiston equals 117. Now, the shooting happened on the 298th day of the year. Bowling for Columbine equals 298. From the Columbine shooting to this shooting was 1,279 weeks. The 207th prime number. Michael Moore equals 207, and the area code for the state of Maine equals 207. The word shooting equals 37, 107, and 44. Bowling equals 37 and 107. Wednesday, the day of the shooting, equals 37 and 44. And the bar, one of the places where it happened, the bar called Semenji's Bar and Grill, that equals 107. Now, the bowling alley where the shooting took place is called Spare Time Recreation, and that is on Mollison Way. And Mollison Way equals 50, and the other place where the shooting happened is called Semenji's, and that equals 50. Now, Card had been committed to a mental health facility for 2 weeks in the summer, according to a Maine Information and Analysis Center notice that the Associated Press news agency said was circulated to law enforcement officials for hearing voices, which is V2K. He was an Army reservist and a shooting instructor. Now, the military came out and said, no, that's not true. He wasn't a shooting instructor, so we don't know whether that's accurate or not. He was a sergeant first class in the Army Reserve. He was a petroleum supply specialist for the 3rd Battalion of the 304th Infantry Regiment in Saco. Now, here's a picture of the Bowling for Columbine movie poster, and the shooting happened at a bowling alley, and it all matches up with Michael Moore's name. And here's a picture of Michael Moore holding a gun. That movie, Bowling for Columbine, is all about banning guns. Here's where Lewiston, Maine is on this map here. And here are some pictures of the shooter. Here he is walking into one of the places with a firearm. And here are the couple other pictures of him with the same firearm. Here are the cops. And here's the picture of the bowling alley right here. And here's a picture of one of the victims. And if you notice carefully, he's wearing a shirt that says sniper on it. And on the shirt, there's a bunch of blood on the shirt. Not real blood, like this is the shirt he bought and he's wearing. It says sniper on the shirt. And then on the shirt, there's a guy walking around with an assault rifle on the shirt. And this guy supposedly is one of the victims that got killed. So, something's fishy there. And this right here, this is what it's all about. Here's a picture of what it's all about. This is all about banning firearms in the United States. So they want to disarm the American people so they can't defend themselves. So what they're doing all these false flags with these people and putting voices in their head, which is V2K, which is controlled by the signals intelligence bases. Basically, their goal is to disarm the American people. So all the governments of the world, the Freemason governments of the world, they can control the whole world and have their one world government. They have all the power and all the weapons, and then the regular citizens are defenseless, and they don't have any weapons to defend themselves against a world dictatorship. Now here's a headline in the news. It says, Maine shooting suspect heard voices and had thoughts about wanting to hurt fellow soldiers. The suspect in the Maine mass shooting started making statements about hearing voices and wanting to hurt fellow soldiers while serving at a military base this summer, and spent a few weeks in a hospital, law enforcement officials told CNN. So he obviously knew that the military has this voice-to-skull technology, and obviously when they started attacking him with the V2K, he said, he's going to attack the military base doing it, which is a natural reaction to being attacked by V2K. But a relative of the suspect and two former colleagues in the Army Reserve told CNN they weren't aware of him having any long-standing history of mental health issues. So he's gone his whole life without having any mental health issues, according to his relative and two former colleagues in the Army Reserve, although one former colleague remembered him as a skilled marksman and outdoorsman who was among the best shooters in his unit. So they chose him because he's a good shot in the military, and he's the patsy. Robert R. Carr II, who police are searching for in connection with the fatal shooting of at least 18 people in Lewiston, Maine, made his troubling statements while he was at the Camp Smith training facility in New York, the law enforcement official said. His command referred him to a military hospital, and he spent a few weeks under evaluation, they said. The 40-year-old Card also threatened to shoot up a National Guard base in Maine, law enforcement officials previously told CNN. Yeah, because they were putting voices in his head, so that was his response to being attacked by V2K, was to go after them. He threatened to go after the people doing it. That's the NSA doing it. Card's sister-in-law, Katie O'Neill, said in a brief conversation with CNN Thursday that Card does not have a long history of mental health struggles. And let me tell you something. People who are 40 years old don't all of a sudden get schizophrenia. I have a psychology degree. People get schizophrenia in like their teen years or early 20s. It doesn't happen when you're 40. Now she goes on to say, this is something that was an acute episode. This is not who he is, O'Neill said. He is not someone who has had mental health issues for his lifetime or anything like that. So he's 40 years old, and his sister-in-law says he's never had any mental health issues. And all of a sudden at 40 he's hearing voices. That doesn't happen. That's not how schizophrenia works. You get it in your teens or your early 20s. People don't get it when they're 40. It's the NSA doing this, putting voices in people's heads. It's called signals intelligence. And I have a video on my page. It's called Freemason Mind Control Secrets Revealed. It's like one of the very first videos I did. Go to the very bottom of my page and you can find it. And you'll see how they put voices in people's heads with frequencies. Now it says, except for an arrest in 2007 for an alleged driving under the influence charge, the suspect is not known to ATF or in FBI holdings, according to law enforcement sources. He legally possesses multiple weapons and owns a home on hundreds of acres of land in Maine, the sources said. So he's never been in trouble with the law his whole life. Except for, he had a drunk driving charge once. No crimes. So he's not a criminal. Card is a petroleum supply specialist in the Army Reserve and first enlisted in 2002, according to records provided by the Army on Thursday. He has no combat deployments, according to the records. Clifford Steeves of Massachusetts told CNN he knew Card when they served in the Army Reserve together, starting in the early 2000s until a decade ago. He said he never witnessed any concerning behavior from Card. So he has a track record of good behavior. It says he was a very nice guy, very quiet. He never overused his authority or was mean or rude to other soldiers, Steve said. It's really upsetting. So people who have worked with him, his sister-in-law, and other soldiers have said he was a nice guy, no concerning behavior, no criminal record, never had a history of mental health problems. Steve said the two served together around the country at different points, including in Wisconsin, Georgia, and New York. He said he felt as though he grew up with Card because they entered the Army as young men and trained together. Steve said that while aggressive leadership was very prominent in the Army, Card stuck out for being a rational, understanding person who led through respect rather than fear. Hear that? His colleague describes him as being a rational, understanding person. So that sort of flies in the face of saying he's a crazy person or a schizophrenic. Steves said Card never saw combat but had extensive training, including firearms training and land navigation, so he would be very comfortable in the woods. He described Card as an outdoors type of guy and a skilled marksman who was one of the best shooters in his unit. Another former Army Reserve member who served with Card also described him as a nice guy who never had an issue with anybody. The service member, who asked to speak anonymously due to the sensitivity of the situation, did not recall Card showing any kind of violent behavior. So every single person they're talking to about him that knows him and knows his history and knew him from the past, nobody has anything bad to say about him. They don't have anything negative to say about his behavior. They don't have anything to say negative about his mental health. He basically was a nice guy who never got in any trouble. Card studied engineering technology at the University of Maine between 2001 and 2004, but did not graduate, Eric Gordon, a university spokesperson, told CNN. Public records show addresses for Card in Bowdoin, Maine, a town near Lewiston. Card appears to have been a member of a local horseshoe throwing club in the nearby town of Lewiston, Maine, according to a local news story and a Facebook photo that showed him wearing a t-shirt with the club's logo. An account on the social media platform X, which is formerly Twitter, with Card's name and a photo that appears to be him, which has been taken offline, has a history of liking right-wing and Republican political content. So yeah, guys, my opinion is that this guy is just a patsy for the NSA because the people in power, they want to ban guns in the United States. And they used V2K on this guy, just like they're doing to my brother and lots of other people. And they're just using them as patsies to go on these shooting sprees as a pretext to ban guns. Sort of like, what's going on over in the Middle East, how they do a false flag in order to start a war and then attack a big group of innocent people who are, they don't even have their own Army, Navy, or Air Force. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace out.